2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome to Freedom Auto Tech, Recovery Talk, brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech. I was staring at my note here, but my name is Jim Quigley, and I'm sorry that I missed last week, but we had quite a bit of sickness at my home. But we're back with you today with a new show, fresh show, and I got my friend Jacobe Miller in the studio with me this morning. But before we get to Jacob's story about his recovery journey, I do want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, which is Freedom Auto Tech. So there's where I was supposed to say it, Freedom Auto Tech. I'm sitting in here actually with proudly wearing my official Freedom Auto Tech t-shirt for those of you on Facebook Live that are able to see it. But Freedom Auto Tech is a local auto shop here in town, ready to fix your car, service all your car needs. But we want the public to know that all the profits are going to help a good cause, which is Freedom Farm Ministries, which is a 1-year recovery program for men. And, we kind of think it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, everybody that owns a car, you need to get your car fixed. So here you could go to Freedom Auto Tech. If you buy a part from us, that part is immediately covered by a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, which is parts and labor, not just the part. And that's nationwide. So if you buy the part here, get it fixed here, and break down in Arizona, that part will be covered to be fixed in Arizona. So, get your car fixed, get a good job done, and know that the profits and proceeds are going to Freedom Farm Ministries, a good cause. Their number, if you are listening and you have your engine light on or something knocking, is 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. All right. I know. Whoa. Man, I'm having all kinds of problems this morning. I'm sorry. All right. Okay, so maybe this is what happens when you take a day off. You come back and everything is just like out of place. But anyway, I want to give I've never been a believer. You ever gotten a Jacob? Say hi to everybody real fast before I start talking to you.
Hello.
Jacob, have you ever had a flu shot before? You ever had a flu shot before? You don't get them. So I was always a big anti-flu shot guy. Let me tell you something. I think it's the only thing that saved me. But, it's not over yet. I guess this is particle board. Knock on wood. But my whole family got sick except for me. And I was around the sickness, and I never got sick. So, but you end up becoming the big nurse. You got to take care of everybody when you get the flu shot. So still maybe it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Jacob, welcome to the show. And thank you for coming in here to tell your story. And Jacob is he's kind of a local, right? So you're are you like a half-breed Boonite?
Yeah, I lived in Florida from birth until about 12 and then moved up here at 12, 13. I turned 13 up here, lived up here till I was 20, then moved back down to Florida. So I've been in Boone for about 8 years total.
I should have asked you before we went on air, but do I need to use a code name for you so that anybody in town that might hear you on the radio won't come into the station and maybe meet up with you?
No, I never did any of my shenanigans in Boone, really. So
okay,
I'm
so
good.
you're safe.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of shenanigans, speaking of your life, you grew up in Florida. Where in Florida?
Deltona. It's a little residential town between Orlando and Daytona Beach, so smack dab in the tourist capital.
Okay, and how close is that? We talked about this before, to DeLand.
DeLand is less than 5 miles away.
Okay, DeLand is the largest drop zone in the country. Did you know that?
Drop zone?
Yeah, that people skydive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you see a lot of skydiving going on over there?
No, I've never paid attention to it.
You must have been intoxicated.
I know a lot of, for sure. I know quite a few people that have gone skydiving and told me it was local, so.
So, growing up in Florida, why don't you share with us a little bit about that part of your life growing up?
I was born back in 92. My mom and my father were split right after I was born, so my mother moved in with my grandparents. My grandparents kind of took over the role of raising me like a real young child to them, like their youngest. And, you know, my mother for most of my life was more of an older sister archetype, if ever there was one. She cared for me, but she suffered from addiction, so she really wasn't capable to ever conquer that. So while she was still living, she never really came into that motherly parenting. She always just loved me and did what she thought was best. Grew up, moved around a lot. When I was I think about 8 or 9, I got kicked out of all public schools in the state of Florida.
What?
Yeah, for some little shenanigans I pulled in school right around 2001, right after September.
Oh, so like related to...
It wasn't related to that. It was a prank, but I had that, and after I got kicked out of those schools, my grandparents did very well. They pulled together money, put me through a good Christian school, which I eventually got kicked out of. And then I went to a reform school for all the children with behavioral problems, which I made it through because they can't kick you out of that one. And I kept messing up, so one day I was about 12, 13. My dad said, all right, you're coming to move to Boone with me. We're going to move up towards my family. And that was pretty much the entirety of my early childhood in Florida, just being a dumb kid running around doing dumb stuff.
Well, say hi to, I think it's your sister. Look to the camera and say hi to. She's told on you already. She says that, I guess it was an anthrax joke.
It was. Well, it wasn't, but it was. That's the way it was taken. I had a teacher that I didn't enjoy, and I had a classmate I did not enjoy, so I gathered up all the chalk powder and wanted to make a mess in both of their desks, and it got turned into something along that effects.
And your sweet sister said you're not dumb, you're just a misguided child. And you know, on that topic, you know, I was in a big conversation yesterday with a group of friends that care for me a lot, and I meet with them on a consistent basis. And we were talking about the very issue of fatherless or parentless children now, and you know, it is on the rise like you wouldn't believe, that kids are being raised by their grandparents, single mothers. There's always been, obviously, those types of situations, but as far as how bad it's gotten now, I believe the numbers for the black community alone that have fatherless homes is somewhere in like the 70-80%, and the white community, it has gone up significantly from something like 20%, and it's almost doubled, and it's on the rise, continuing on. And you know, the unfortunate thing is that our child protective services are flooded now with all kinds of children out there that didn't have grandparents that were able to take them in. And then you got grandparents that are in retirement years, and you know, they just really can't handle kids that are, you know, doing anthrax scares in their school, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well,
because I'm going to tell you, you know what? You may have done some dumb stuff, but you're a good guy, you know? I want to say that to the audience, actually. When I asked you to be on the show, I think it was Tuesday, I was like, hey, would you consider coming on the show? And you said something, I think in jest, you said, well, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, you know, getting people guests. And there's nothing true about that at all. I mean, you're a legit success story, my friend. I mean, you've been here how long now?
11 months.
11 months. You're almost done with a year commitment.
Yes, sir.
And we'll find out in your story, this is your first shot at this.
Yes, sir.
And you've been doing great, man. So I just wanted to give you some props that you got the whole entire school evacuated. I'm getting all the skinny from your sister down in Florida. This is great.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about all the other stuff they did later, okay? So moved up to Boone, and you said you didn't really get in trouble in Boone.
I didn't get in trouble because I never got caught doing my stuff in Boone.
You got away with it in Boone.
Yeah.
So you're 13 years old, you're in Boone, and just pick up the story from there. What was life like at that point? Living with dad and grandparents up here?
I was living with just my father and his wife at the time. My little sister and my little brother was born about a year and a half, 2 years after I moved up here. It first started out, I've always been one to keep to myself, so after about a year, I made some friends. Those friends, I could have been the bad influence, they could have been that bad influence. Either way, it started off innocently enough, smoking weed at school, skipping class, turned into, taking cough medicine to get high. Because when you're 13, a fake ID doesn't even cut it to get booze. So it turned into that, and as it went on, it progressed to where I eventually was forced to drop out of school. Later on, as I started missing more class and acting the fool, as it were, more and more.
So you basically started off with the over-the-counter stuff that people don't realize that you can get and abuse.
I was highly addicted to cough medicine for about 2 years.
People don't realize this is one of the weirdest things you probably never would have thought. But Imodium AD, if you take a bunch of Imodium, it gives you opiate-like effects.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't even said that on air. Yeah. So anyway, we're coming up on a break. We got just a few minutes before we do, but when we come back, how old were you about now?
I was about 14, 15.
We're at 14, 15. You have had to leave school at this point?
Yes.
So, yeah, when we come back, we will pick up the story from there. So do us a favor, stay with us, and we will come back and pick up Jacob's story in a minute. Got the full school
that's
back
true, because I remember when Vicks, that's why they took Vicks Formula 44 off the market, because it used to be as black as his shirt.
Yeah.
And it was loaded with codeine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was $1.98.
Yeah.
So you would scrounge $1.98. I mean, I never drank it unless I was sick, and it would get rid of your cough like that.
Yeah.
But I could still, Steve Brish, he'd walk around, and he'd have it in his back pocket like a flask.
Yeah.
And I remember we were going somewhere, and I'm like, we're like 12. I'm like, Steve, what the f*** you got that for? Were you sick? Nah, man. He goes, you want some? Give me a good high. And I said, dude, I don't think so. I'll pass. Holy moly, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The hell are you doing?
I remember as a kid that stuff, man. It's the Vicks 44. And then there's, people don't realize the old NyQuil used to have alcohol in it.
That's right.
And it used to knock you out, man. You used to take a little shot of NyQuil, and you just like...
Yeah, they've kind of watered it down a little bit.
There's no alcohol in it at all now. There's that...
They have the ones that are alcohol-free, but a lot of them still have alcohol.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen...
Register when I was sick in restoration had to get me some. He was like, do you want the drinkable or the pills? I was like, I prefer the drinkable. It works faster. And he was like, well, I had to get you pills in the nighttime because all the nighttime in the bottle has alcohol.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I understand.
I think I need to look at that stuff again because I think that there's been a change even with that in recent that you can't even...
They do have ones that are alcohol-free. But
Okay.
He got my stuff from Publix. I guess he was grocery shopping. And he was like, I couldn't find any that were fluid that were alcohol-free, so I got you tablets. I was like, I don't care, man.
Yeah, I gotta be
I
careful.
mean, it's like I said, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed the crap that's out there. And it's gotten so bad. I mean, I remember when guys, you would take, I mean, I never did this. I mean, but I remember, you remember those paper bags? He's too young to remember, Jimmy. You remember those paper bags? They were good enough you could put 4 or 5 items in them from the store.
Yeah.
They're about maybe that big, about that tall.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember guys taking tubes of model glue.
Yep.
Tubes.
Yep.
And just squeezing them in there till they got every drop on. They would bake 10, 15 tubes in the bottom of that bag. And then put it in your pocket and And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
My dad confessed to me, I think I was about 15, 16 at the time. My dad confessed to me that when he was my age at that time, at least I wasn't an idiot going around huffing gas. At least I was smoking weed. I was like, who huffs gas? He's like, I did when I was your age.
But see, it's the same thing as Jim White, who used to do a talk show on KMOX, said to a man who was an addict, and he got him help on the air. He was a lot like Jimmy. He cared for people. But he said, that's the difference between me and you. I can go into a restaurant, have a drink or two, order my meal, eat, and go home. I'm fine. You can't.
Yep.
And you're the kind of person that says, I'm okay. No, you're not, because one drink leads to two, two leads to four, four becomes eight.
Yep.
Get ready, Jimmy. You got 10 seconds. I mean, and that's what people don't understand. And they just get so hooked on it, and it's dangerous.
Oh, yeah,
Here we go,
definitely.
guys. 3, 2, 1. Jimmy, you're on.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. We're here with Jacobe Miller here, and we just want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, which is Freedom Auto Tech, who I'm proudly wearing the Freedom Auto Tech shirt, and I know that Jacobe is jealous because he wants one. You're reading the Freedom Farm Ministries, but I've got the Auto Tech shirt on, which is the new hip thing here in Boone. Everybody's going to want one soon. So anyway, Freedom Auto Tech is a local auto shop here in town, giving you professional service. Nothing against the Freedom Farm guys, but I don't want to paint a picture that you got a whole bunch of guys that are like detoxing off drugs that are working your cars. It's not the case. We actually have a professional mechanic, certified mechanic. He went to Toyota school, actually. That's where. But he grew up in a mechanic family, and his name is Adam, by the way. I know he's listening. He always likes to get to Adam Woodard from Beach Mountain. So he was on the show 2 weeks ago, actually, or 3 weeks ago. So, we got Adam in there and ready to diagnose, give you professional service to your car. And, you get a 24,000-mile 2-year warranty on any parts that you buy from us and are put into your car. So kind of no-brainer. Go get your car fixed if you need it fixed, and know that the profits are going to support a good cause, which is Freedom Farm Ministries, which is a 1-year program for men struggling with substance abuse, which we have an 11-month success story in studio with us today. Todd wants to say that he is jealous of the shirt too. Yeah, I know you are, Todd. So everybody is. So anyway, You're 14 years old, living in Boone now, living with Dad, starting to use over-the-counter cough medicine and things like that. When I was in high school, we called it robo-tripping.
Yeah, I called it that as well.
Robitussin, and you drink a bottle of Robitussin and you hallucinated like crazy.
If you take enough of it, and I didn't know this till I stopped doing it, but apparently the high I was chasing at that age was similar to that of ketamine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was like taking tranquilizers all day.
Yeah, so there's that, and then there was the corticetin cold and cough we called triple C's. The people would take a whole bunch of those things. So anyway, it's a problem, man. I mean, I've actually had guys in their 50s, 60s come in here, and they're drinking cough medicine. That's what they're doing. So it is a problem. Just for anybody out there, some knowledge. If you think you suspect somebody, that could be one thing. So anyway, tell us what's going on next. How did this progress, my friend?
I was 14, 15. I was messing up a lot. I was getting high. I was missing a lot of school. I was going down to the Boone Mall. I distinctly remember one day I was had a girlfriend at the time, and her dad was coming to pick us up from the Boone Mall. And that was the first and only time I ever experimented with Ambien to get high.
Okay.
And
did you get it from a parent's cabinet or something?
Some person at school brought it, and they were like, "Hey, I got sleeping pills." I was like, "Why would I take those?" They were like, "If you stay awake, you're gonna have a good time." So, I'm a kid. They're a kid. We believe each other. Mm-hmm. We got rock solid facts to go on. So we took
rock
it,
solid facts.
And I fell asleep in the Boone Mall on a bench and got forcibly awoken to get in the car and get dropped off. Got back to my house, and
so you took sleeping pills to get high, but you fell asleep.
I fell asleep,
Okay.
but then I woke back up, and the hallucinations were definitely not fun. It was easier to stay asleep. I arrived back home. I passed out in my room. Luckily, it was a Friday, so no school in the morning for 15-year-old me. And my father, when I finally came to and woke up, he's like, "You've been asleep for 36 hours, man." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You got home around 5 yesterday. It is Sunday morning." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He's like, "No, not cool. We're pulling you out of school." And at that point in time, I was just acting out so much that I think my dad made the right call, because just every time I went and hung out with my buddies, it was trying to escalate. I stopped short of taking motion sickness Dramamine pills to get high. And
That's the first. Never heard of that one.
apparently it stops your heart, or it feels like it does, and it doesn't feel like your heart's beating for a while.
That doesn't even sound fun.
I'm not promoting. Well, yeah, when I got told what it felt like, I was like, no, that sounds ridiculous. At that point in time, my dad made me drop out. So I would still run to my buddy's house, smoke weed, go home. I'm not in school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then August, I believe it was 2009, I got a phone call one night, and my dad got the hysterics from my older sister that my mother had just passed away due to a Xanax and opiate overdose. And I had gotten that news, and that kind of shocked me right then and there. To make a real long story a little bit shorter, my dad gave me free access to his Franzia box of wine that night and was like, just do what you gotta do, man. The next day was my little brother's first birthday, and we were packing up the car to go to my mom's funeral that next day. And for I want to say about a solid 2-3 months, my coping mechanism was less than healthy. And then it brought me around to later on, before I actually had any real addiction, I said, I hate drugs. I'm done with this. I don't want to get high. Getting high is what killed my mom. And around 16, 17, I started on a 2-year period of no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. No pot, no nothing. But that was basically at the end of that 2 years is when the beginning of the end, so to speak, started to happen.
So 16, lost your mother. Is that?
Yes.
And I'm sorry about that, man.
Yeah.
And that started a 2-year period of I'm going to will myself not to use substances because they had that much of an effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
But when we come back from this break, we're going to find out that you couldn't will yourself forever. It actually, you started to go down that very same path.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, your sister said it was a very sad day. So, yeah. So, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll pick up the story from there. So, stay with us, folks. We'll see you in a minute.
You're going in the news, Jimmy.
Okay.
Yeah, man, that's some serious shit, man. That's some serious shit.
Well, with my mother, man, when my mother passed away, there was a whole thing, like DCF was involved with my mother for years, trying to take me and my sister away from my mother. For a while there, I didn't want to touch on it on the radio, but I was a ward of the state. My mom was awarded no rights. My grandparents weren't my legal guardians. They were essentially, I was a ward of the state. I was owned by the state, and they were just my caretakers, legally speaking. I was lucky enough to stay in the family. I mean, my mother had a boyfriend. He overdosed on crack and Xanax on 4th of July, was found brain dead, asphyxiated on his vomit, moved to hospice. They unplugged him. His family that he had had no contact with for 10, 15 years found out that he was in hospice, and as soon as they found out, they were like, we're pulling the plug. So that kind of drove my mom into using more and more. My mom was pregnant with my youngest sister at the time. He died. And then that happened, and because of my mom never finishing stuff involving me and my sister, and courses, the state took my little sister from my mother. And that was kind of the final straw on my mom's sanity. She lost a boyfriend. Before my mom died, I was really rude to her because I've always hated drugs and drug addicts before I got up here and got some understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the last times I talked to my mother, I told her, I was like, unless you can get your crap together, I was like, we're done. Don't talk to me. I don't want to see you like this.
Well, like I said, and the other thing is too, what people don't understand, it's always, well, it's not going to affect me. It's not going to do crap to me, and blah 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 blah. And Jimmy can back this up better than I can because he was there. He saw this with his own eyes. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It affects everything and everybody around you.
Oh, yeah.
And before you know it, you're becoming a problem. And that problem can escalate into bigger problems. And I mean, you don't think about it. I mean, I'll give you an example. I lost 2 friends of mine, and they both died of the same thing, liver disease, because they drank like fish. They could drink you under the table. They never did drugs. They wouldn't smoke pot. No drugs. It was just alcohol, 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 alcohol. I mean, they would drink anything and everything. They would put the fear of God in you. And what was so sad was, hold on, let me send this to Coach real quick.
Well, my sister's watching. You've got Missy Tosman saying proud of you. Vanessa, your sister. Hannah Spees, love you. Kathy Spees, love you. Your Uncle Jason, good to see you. Big Dog Jake.
Big Dog, I love it.
Amanda Hartman, Drew's wife, she's saying hi. Rosita Carter, God bless you. So,
What's up, y'all?
you're like famous, man.
But I mean, those guys.
I knew as soon as I told my sister's like this right now, just like, oh wait, she's like this right now. Come on, guys, look at Jake. He's on a recovery talk show. I was like, I only told you, Vanessa, so you wouldn't be upset finding it after it aired.
Yeah.
Your
Well,
sister.
So
loves
thanks,
she's
Ness.
still looking, but see, the toughest, like I said, the toughest thing to do is to admit it. And see, they never would. I mean, the sad thing about when Bob found out that he had cirrhosis, he and his wife had divorced. And it was a while, but he met a real nice lady. And they were together, they got married. Right after they got married, he was 48 years old. And he started having issues. He started noticing his feet were beginning to inflate.
Oh, okay.
And then all of a sudden, one morning he felt real lousy, and he looked in the mirror. His eyes didn't look right, and he went like this, and it was piss yellow underneath his eye. Oh shit. He goes to the doctor. They went through numerous tests. And he had just married this woman. They'd been married maybe 8 months. The doctor came in and said, Bob, I got bad news for you. He said, I know you've quit drinking and all that. He said, buddy, you're beyond repair. You're done. You ain't going to make it.
I have a cousin that
And he
actually...
died. He's 48. He died.
I have a cousin, Steve. He actually wrote me when I first got to Safe House. Steve is sober from alcohol, I think 12 years. Needs a liver transplant, and because of his history with alcoholism, they were like,
Get ready, Jim. Guys, get ready. Here we go.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech, who I'm wearing their fine shirt today. I'm going to keep saying that because, I'm going to be the guy you need to talk to if you want to get one. Or come on over there and get your car fixed. It's kind of a no-brainer if you got a broken car and you need it fixed. So, why not get your car fixed by a professional that if you buy a part, comes with a warranty. And at the same time, know that you're helping support a good cause, which is the Ministry of Freedom Farm, and which is a 1-year program for men struggling with substance abuse. Jake, you're extremely popular here on Facebook. Got the man with the plan, Big Jake. Missy says she loves you. Your sister is your biggest fan, Kathy. You have so much love from your family. So wanted to get that in there, but I forgot to tell you the phone number for Freedom Auto Tech because I'm not very good at this. I'm not a very good host today. I'm all over the place. You know what? I'm going to tell you everybody real quick. You know what's on my mind? I have to go to court tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what? It took me sobriety to get in trouble with the law. So this is what happened to me. I'm running Freedom Farm, and I don't know anything about any of that kind of stuff. And so I get this letter from the state that says that I was supposed to have workman's comp insurance 2 years ago. And they give me all these very short deadlines to get insurance. And if I don't, I get all these fines. Well, I have a fine that I'm going to appeal. $20,000. $20,000 fine. We can appeal it. I don't think we're going to pay $20,000, but $20,000 for not having it. And that was a separate part. And then they sent an actual guy in an unmarked police SUV with a badge to issue me a citation. And I have to be at court tomorrow morning. And if I had not gone and gotten insurance, which we did, I could have been facing jail time, actually. Isn't that crazy? Had no idea that I was even out of compliance. I mean, it was a crime of ignorance. That's what it was. But here it is. I got in some trouble. But anyway, everything's good now, and we had supporters come out and help us, and everything's fine. So it was actually turned out to be a good thing. But anyway, Freedom Auto Tech is a way you can support us, but also get your car fixed at the same time. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Okay, so back to your story, my friend. 2 years you've sworn off substances because of the death of your mother, and off air you were telling us some other things that you just didn't have time to go into. But man, you've had it hard. Okay, you've seen some crap, and there's probably a better word to use. I'm not going to use it on the air.
Yeah.
But brother, you've gone through it, and so what happened after 2 years?
Well, after 2 years of, I was sober. I was abstaining from, getting high. I was knee deep in my faith at the time as opposed to neck deep. And I was getting into a very legalist approach in my faith, and it was causing me to get depressed. I was like, man, I'm sober. I'm trying to do stuff. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm not doing enough. I'm a piece of garbage. Mm-hmm. So it kind of spiraled into a depression, and I couldn't get myself to move or, really do anything.
So you use a kind of a Christianese word there. We need to maybe because people may not know what you mean by legalist faith. So legalist faith is a legalist is somebody that says, I am better. I'm a good person because of my record, right?
Yeah.
I have a good moral record, which makes me a good person. And what comes along with a legalist mindset is a very judgmental, critical spirit, because in order for you to maintain that mindset, you always got to find people that you're better than, right?
Yep.
To compare your record to, and I'm better than Jake because I went to church 6 times and you only went 4 times. Basically that's the mentality of it all. So go ahead.
But it really caused me, the judgment was more on myself because I was like, I'm doing something, I'm just not doing enough. It caused me to go into a depression. I stopped doing stuff. I was in my bed all the time. I wouldn't move. I was playing video games, 17 years old. My dad's like, hey, you should think about getting a job. I had gotten my GED at this point in time.
Good for you.
And I was like, all right, sure. And my dad's like, hey, you should think about getting a job. I was like, yeah, I'm looking. I was not looking. And finally, it was about 2-3 months till I was about to turn 18. My dad's like, all right, you didn't get a job, you're out. I was lucky enough that my sister was living up here at the time, and it took me getting kicked out by my dad to finally get my first job.
Okay.
I lived with my sister, my niece, and my sister's boyfriend at the time for, I don't know, I want to say about 6-7 months. Still staying sober. My sister has always been an advocate for bud being a good thing, so she would even try and talk me into that, and she can attest to this point in time I wouldn't even touch a joint. I was like, nope, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
then my sister, it came time to where she was getting tired of Boone and wanted to get back down to Florida. She moved out, still completely sober at this time, always alone.
Alone, depressed.
Alone, depressed. Maybe not even noticing the depression because I had video games there to cover it up with. Something to keep me company. And it came time that they were leaving. I was like, I don't want to go back down to Florida. I despise Florida. There's no way I'm going back down to Florida. So I'm about 18 and a half when she leaves. And
you had become a true Boonite.
Yeah.
Despised Floridians.
Yeah, I loved the snow. I didn't mind getting snowed in. I didn't mind the horrible, awful weather in the middle of the winter up here. And my sister was moving back down to Florida. My father was moving back down to Florida. Everyone that I'd moved up here with was going back down south. And I was like, no, I want to stay here. I found two old buddies from high school used to ride the bus with, not ones I ever did anything dumb with.
Right.
And they were looking for a roommate, so I was like, I'm going to room with y'all right down there on Winkler's Creek Road, right by the Walmart.
Okay.
Got a job at Walmart, and then it kind of devolved into the chaos that you would expect when it's a bunch of college-aged guys living on their own, paintball fights indoors, and then the binge drinking kind of started from that.
So you started drinking when you moved into this apartment?
Yeah, and at first it was just like 1 or 2 times, and then because again at the time I was 19, I'm 19 here, and still can't buy alcohol. And then I started trying to get into relationships with girls that were at least of drinking age so they could buy me booze, and it started progressing from there. Still wasn't an everyday drinker, anything to that effect. It was just 3 to 4 days out of the week I wanted to get hammered.
Mm-hmm.
And it started coming from that I started desiring to be drunk more than I wanted to be sober. And I didn't see a problem with it at the time. And if I go forward a little bit more, it came to the point to where my lease was up.
Mm-hmm.
I lived with my buddy for a year. He's like, listen, I'm relocating. Boone proper is too expensive to live in. They want to mark up rent. I'm moving out to meat camp. I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And at this point in time, I had heard something to the effect of my grandfather's health was getting bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, well, this is a signal. It's time to go back down to Florida. My family needs me down there. I need to go take care of the man that raised me. He took care of me. Maybe I can be of some use to him down there. Trying to be very noble about the reason why I didn't want to...
You needed a place to stay.
I needed a place to stay, and trying to make up all the reasons in the world why at 20 it wasn't time for me to, do my own thing for once.
Right.
Or attempt to. So I ended up just packing my stuff. I didn't have anything at that time except for an old bed, so I packed my clothes and I got on a train, and then I moved back down to Florida.
That's a long train ride.
Yeah,
I took it up here.
I am terrified of planes, so trains and buses.
It's like 28 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not recommended.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I went all the way South Florida. You stopped in the
I stopped
northern,
central.
Yeah.
I stopped about 300 miles before you.
Yeah. Still, it's a long train
Yeah.
ride. Okay, so you're back down in Florida.
Yeah. And I get down there, and my grandfather had CHF, congestive heart failure, since I could remember. He gets a stent put in his heart after I've been down there for a few months and gets to feeling better. And I was like, all right. Me and my sister had high tensions at this point in time, due to her battle that she was going through. I know Vanessa doesn't mind me saying it. My sister was addicted to opiates and anything she could get her hands on. And at this point in time, she went the route of my mother, and I was still on a high horse of, I just drink, I don't do anything wrong.
Right.
I'm not doing anything wrong. Because at that point in time, for a kid, I still maintain I wasn't doing anything dumb. I was just partying too much. But I was like, all right, Pop is in good health. It's time for me to go. It is. I can't stand this. He won't put the foot down with her. He won't listen to me. I came here to be of use to this family, and if they're just gonna continue to let this happen, I'm done. I wanna go. I'll go back to Boone. I'll go to California. I'll go anywhere. And at that, right around that time that I was making my mind up to go, my grandmother actually had a massive stroke, paralyzed the left side of her body. This is my family I'm living with at the time, and that kind of put the kibosh on me moving out.
No more going to California.
No.
Okay.
But as I got to that point, the drinking started covering up a lot of the rage I was feeling towards everyone in my family. Started drinking to suppress it because I didn't want to be involved with anything in my family. I was just like, I'm just here. You guys are over there. I'm doing me. I'm better than y'all.
All right. Sounds like a good break spot. We're going to come back and finish the story out. So stay with us, and we'll hear the wrap-up with Jacobe Miller's story. So this is going to be the last time when we come back, man. So we'll have... How long is this break?
We have got, let's see, 31 minutes. Got 2 minutes.
Okay, so your last time will be about 12 minutes, 10, 12 minutes, and then it'll be it.
Okay.
And see, again, God, dude, have you not... I cannot see you on a train for 23 hours.
Terrible.
Dude, you have done so much crazy shit.
You know what? When I came up on the train, too, this was still when
How are you still alive?
the pill mills were still going on down in South Florida.
Oh,
so the
gosh.
train was filled with people from Kentucky, Ohio, that were just going down to Florida to get pills. So, like, the whole train was people, like
didn't
trading
you own
pills.
a bar in the Caribbean?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, that
Yeah.
was... What in the fuck?
Yeah.
Jim,
Crazy,
what were you
crazy.
doing?
Did a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking.
See, Jimmy, and when I see that picture of you and that baby,
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. I'm glad the God you got your life together.
Yeah, I meant it, man. I had no idea that's what 43 would look like. Never in my life that I'd be holding that beautiful boy and...
Dude, you don't even look 43. You look like you're in your mid-30s.
Yeah, the preservatives, I think.
Well,
It's in the food.
Yeah.
I'm just thankful that you didn't die.
I am too. Trust me, I am a very thankful person.
Because I'll tell you what, people have no idea what could happen.
Here's my sister saying, "Praise the Lord." She almost came down to Costa Rica to get me out. She was like, I was like literally like thinking we need to go down there and like kidnap
Well,
them.
can you blame her?
No, but
I mean, God Almighty, Jim.
unfortunately, I actually came back from Costa Rica, lived with her, and ended up still doing terrible.
10 seconds, buddy. Holy cow, I can't believe it. Now, see this man now he's helping. 5 seconds. 3, 2.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting. We've had Jacobe Miller with us today telling us his story, and we're going to pick it up real quick, but we want to give a shout out to Freedom Auto Tech, which is the official sponsor of this show that's brought to you every Thursday here on WATA, and they're a auto shop here in town that has a dual purpose to give you good work, warranted work on your vehicle. At the same time, profits and proceeds go to help out the Ministry of Freedom Farm, which is a 1-year recovery program for men struggling with substance abuse. Freedom Auto Tech's number is 828-355-4434, and that's 828-355-4434. Give them a call, and maybe we can even get a shirt. The one like I'm wearing, you can see us on Facebook Live. Coolest shirt in Boone. Anyway, Jacob. Jacob, so Grandma had a stroke. You're living with Grandpa had a stent, feeling better. Grandma has a stroke. You were about to move to California. I was picturing the scene. You're probably too young for this, but Mike knows exactly what I'm talking about. But like this movie called The Jerk with Steve Martin, where he's like leaving the house. He's like, I don't need anybody except for this pin, you know. And he's on his way out, and he has no humility, right? He has no humility whatsoever, and he ends up anyway. Do you know the movie by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I knew I liked you. You like the classics. So anyway, Grandma moves out. So you were out mentally. You were out, but now you're not. So that's probably messing up your mentality.
Yeah, that happened with my grandma. A bunch of stuff with that. She made a very impressive recovery against what every doctor said. Like one of the top 10 neurosurgeons in the U.S. Was like, "Nah, sorry, she's not gonna walk." She came back.
Wow.
It got to the point to where they were complicit in my sister's addiction. So I was so judgmental and focused on what she was doing wrong.
Right.
And I was just slamming back like the cheapest, dirtiest vodka you could imagine at the time. And I was just so affixed at, like, I don't steal to do anything. I don't do anything wrong. Meanwhile, I was just like turning into a monster. And
when you're drinking cheap vodka, you are basically at the end there.
Well, my sister finally, whereabout she started seeking recovery, whether it was due to legal stuff like that. My sister went to a rehab, and my sister introduced me to the mother of my child, who was in there for the same thing as my sister, heroin and stuff like that. And just a great idea to meet someone and start talking to them when they're like at the very beginning of their recovery. So he's
saying that sarcastically, folks. It's
very
not a
sarcastically.
Good idea. That's not a good idea.
No,
so.
It is the worst thing.
That's
Sorry about that. Yeah, no one knows I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Me and my daughter's mother, we thought we were something great, and in retrospect, we were not. So it came down to me bending over backwards to try and put her family together, and shunning all my actual blood family away and telling them, "Hey guys, you don't know what's right. Me and her are gonna go move out. We're gonna form a family." I had no thoughts of marriage, no thoughts of having a kid, and then boom, she got pregnant. And that's when, at this point in time, I was drinking every day for a solid 3 years straight without missing a day. This is flash forwarding about
perfect foundation
23.
for a brand new family.
Yeah, and I was
that's sarcasm too. So.
Yeah, very sarcastic. And I swore that I would get some help, that I would do something about my drinking after my daughter was born. It came to where I was a liar. I lied through my teeth on that. It wasn't because I wasn't wanting to quit. It's just I didn't want it enough. I couldn't turn to anything to try and help me.
But there's something to say about the physical pull it has you in that point. I mean, you probably could not just stop drinking without having some serious physical, complications. So. And
it got to the point to where, when me and her met, it was always she'd bring me beer and she was happy. I was so sweet, and then it turned into, oh, he's sneaking beers on the side of the house so we don't see him drinking at 9 a.m. And it finally, of course, fell apart. And after it fell apart, I was like, wow, it was really that bad. I struggled, and through willpower, I stayed dry instead of sober for about 3 months to try and, win back the mother of my child, which was the wrong way to go about wanting to be sober. And I relapsed very hard back into that, and got to the point to where I never hurt anyone, but I wrecked 2 cars on that relapse. My brother-in-law's car and my own personal car. And after I wrecked my car, I was doing 80 and a 35, wrapped it around a telephone pole. Got back, I went to another facility and detoxed, had about a month sober, relapse, just over and over. And then the third time, I got fired from my job. I was attempting to get fired at that point in time. I was just so miserable. I got fired from my job. I got home, and my sister, who at this point in time is now, I think, 3 years sober from heroin,
praise God,
and actually helped put me through the program I'm in, put me through Freedom Farm, get the money, was my sponsor, has been my rock to lean on. She was like, if I can get sober, you go ahead, you go get sober. she found this one up here in Boone. I was like, I'm good. Get me a train ticket. I want to go back home. And but at that point in time, my sister asked me. She was like, "Can you get another job?" Because I think she had given up on, like, not the idea of me getting sober, but of trying to tell me to get sober.
Yeah.
And she pushed me through it, and thank God, I thank everything for the amount of time I've had sober now, because battling to get to where I finally broke and let go of the addiction was some of the hardest times in my life. And a lot of people think that sobriety is something that, like, as soon as you don't have a substance, it's there. Because I'm 11 months without a drink, but to say I've been sober 11 months, that's not true. I've been sober about probably 9 months. It took a while to get to where I didn't crave it every day, to where I could function every day without it. And there's still days when I want stuff, but I know I can't go back to it.
That's an awesome story, man. And, shout out to your sister. Us Lost Causes. I was talking to a friend that's in Rockford, Illinois. I went to his funeral. I went to his funeral. I went to his
great town.
I went to his wedding a couple of years ago, and to get him here, it was amazing. He was a lost cause. Basically, just to tell you that he was a lost cause. Like I was a lost cause. Like you were a lost cause. Like your sister was a lost cause. But when a lost cause finds sobriety, they become the biggest advocates of getting other people into sobriety because they know it's possible at that point, And so, man, that's great that you have a sister. So to help you out like that. But so in the last couple minutes we got, what's life like now? I mean, you were working at Penn Station, the sub shop here in town, and you were working so hard, man. I mean, you were working so hard. I was like, man, we could really use him over at our thrift store if he has that much, work ethic. And you actually did that. You came over. You stopped working at Penn Station, came and worked at our thrift store, doing a great job over there. Love that you're there, man. And what's life like? You're 11 months, almost done with your year commitment. We got 2 minutes to tell us. Take it from there, my friend.
Honestly, at this point in my sobriety, in my journey, the biggest thing I can say is being able to talk to the guys that are fresh, that are freshly sober. I don't care if you've come through the program and you're running it back again. I like to try and tell them, hey man, I'm young, this is my first try at it, this might be your 10th, but 10th time is the charm, and trying to talk to these guys, because we've all been there. Everyone that's ever battled with, like, addiction and getting into their recovery has seen the hard times. So, right now I feel like in my recovery, that's probably the best thing for me, is being able to help someone else in theirs. I'm definitely not a learned doctor when it comes to advice, but if I can help anyone, say Ben, it's worth it. It's worth it. And sometimes I catch myself craving the taste of a beer, and then I just remember how far I've came from, and I remember I never want to be drunk again.
Yeah.
I really finally enjoy life for what it is now. And that's something I didn't have for a solid 10 years out of my life. I didn't enjoy any time sober. It was just forced time dry and depression when I was sober. And I'm finally happy without anything.
Well, brother, I am so happy that you are able to hear. There's so much of this story that we couldn't get into. But here we go. How old are you now?
26.
26 years old. First time. Doing great. And man, as a mentor of yours, I'm going to tell you, just don't ever, we just got a commercial. We don't ever give up on that idea of passing it on to the next guy. That service work is going to keep you where you need to be. But thank you so much, everybody, for being on with us today and joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. Thanks, Jacob.
Yes, sir.
You did great, buddy.
It's a great show, buddy. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing to me you're still alive.
At my peak, I didn't want to, put numbers on there, but at my peak, I was doing